Well, hello. Can everybody hear me? Okay, very good. Thank you for joining us. I presume most of you are in Madrid, and so I wish you a nice Buenas tardes afternoon. Some of us are here in California, still in the desert. I read some good news about Spain's numbers. It looks like there's a leveling off or even a dropping. So just can hope for the best. What I thought I would do just to start, I'll unmute us all so we can all say hello. And then after a moment of that, we'll do a meditation of about 25 minutes. So I am going to unmute us all. There we go. Your voice in the room.
Yeah.
Hola.
Hola. Hello.
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 Desde Madrid.
Hello.
Hola.
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 Hola, ¿qué tal?
Very good, thank you. Okay. We're all going to go back into mute here. Change that. Let's make sure we're all muted. Yep. That's funny how he's there. Okay. So what I thought we would do is a 25-minute Vipassana style meditation, which basically means, well, we'll start off with a calming practice of using the breath or the body or sounds as an anchor to calm the mind, a samatha practice. And then maybe in the last few minutes, we'll practice Vipassana, where we'll open up our awareness and just see what arises, notice the impermanence, anicca of things, and then end with connecting back with the body, kind of like we've been doing. So I suggest you find a comfortable posture, one that you can maintain for 25 minutes without too much moving, but not too comfortable that you fall asleep. We don't want to fall asleep. In fact, we want to do the opposite. We want to wake up. So maybe so I can keep track of time, I will put on my timer. And let's start off arriving into our bodies, which essentially connects us, brings us to the present moment. So often our minds get lost in thought, planning, remembering, worrying, and we just disconnect from the present moment. But the body is always in the present moment. And so when we connect the mind to the body, unify the mind and the body, we bring the mind into the present moment. So we could start with a simple body scan. We're starting with the head and just trying to feel your head. Maybe feel your jaw. If you notice any tension in the jaw, just kind of give it a move, a little wiggle, and loosen it up. Maybe feeling your face, noticing any tension around the eyes or the mouth. Just relax. Relax the face. And dropping down into the body, the neck and the shoulders. Just let the shoulders just drop. Just kind of hang there. Maybe you notice some weight at the area of the shoulders. Feeling the arms, the hands, noticing where the hands touch, possibly your legs, your knees, or each other in your lap. Just feel your hands. Feeling your torso, maybe the front torso, the chest, the belly. Maybe noticing the movement of the body with the breath. The back body. Trying to let go of any tension in the back. And feeling the sit bones, maybe where your bottom makes contact with the chair, the cushion, the couch, the bed, the floor. And anytime thoughts pull your attention away, no pasa nada, just try to let them go. Maybe a little push. Okay. Come back to your body. Trying not to judge. Trying not to have expectations that the mind will stay connected to the body, because it might not. Dropping into the legs, feeling the legs. Maybe noticing any currents of energy. And then the feet. Noticing the points of contact, where the feet and the legs might be touching whatever it is you're sitting on, or touching the floor, touching each other. And just noticing one time the feeling of the whole posture, the whole body sitting here. And how Mother Nature, our planet, is holding us here with just the right amount of gravity. Holding us not too tight and not too loose. Now, anytime you want, you can come back to the posture, come back to the feeling of the whole body as an anchor, as a place to return to when your mind becomes distracted. Or you could use the breath. So let's try to find the breath. Now, let's find the sensations of breathing. Maybe you already have a favorite spot. If not, you might just notice your breath at your nose, the nostrils, or maybe the movement of the torso, the chest, the belly, or maybe the whole body breathing. Maybe just kind of experiment, scan this area, and then try to pick a spot that you like the best, that is comfortable for you, and let that be your, what we might call the home base. Let that be your casa. Let that be your anchor. And so you just keep bringing the attention back to this spot and feel, experience, know directly the breath at that spot. Maybe you'll be able to stay with it 2 or 3 or 4 breaths, maybe more, maybe less. No worries. The mind will wander, and you just bring it back and experience, be mindful of, know the breath at that point. And if the breath is a little challenging, a little irritating, not so comfortable, again, you can use the posture as an anchor, or even sounds, the process of hearing, listening, a receptive listening. You're not out looking for sounds, but just waiting for them to come. And picking one of those 3 to be your anchor, and just noticing as the mind wanders, how you can bring it back to the present moment. Again and again. Con cariño, as Jerome would say. With kindness, with care, with curiosity. Again and again, back to the present moment. If you have a practice of naming or labeling your experience, you can do that, or if you find it supportive. So this would mean, for instance, with the breath, we might label it inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. And when the mind is thinking, if it's wandered off, we can simply say thinking when we notice it. And then coming back to the breath, coming back to the body, returning. For some people, it's very supportive to label, to stay connected to the present moment, to stay connected to our present moment experience. If you are experiencing a lot of thinking, if the mind is very preoccupied, you might try dropping into the body and looking for any sensation, whether it's just simply a physical sensation or an emotional sensation that might be connected to that thought. And if you find something, just try to experience the sensation, feel it, know it, without pushing it away, without clinging to it, just being aware of its presence. And then notice what happens. Probably it will pass, and the thinking also may stop, at least for a bit. Now, if your mind is feeling a little more stable, maybe a little more calm, and you'd like to practice what we might call Vipassana style meditation, I invite you to allow your attention to go with whatever is most obvious to your mind, to your attention. And then just notice how things arise and how they pass away. So maybe there'll be sounds. Just let your mind notice the sounds. And then when something else arises that's more obvious, let your mind move to that. Maybe physical sensation, maybe there's even some pain in the body or something has fallen asleep. Just notice that until something else calls your attention. But all the while being mindful of where the attention goes. So knowing whatever is present without judgment, without expectation, just with curiosity. So now for the last couple moments of our meditation, I invite you to return to the body. So no matter what you've been paying attention to last, let's direct our awareness, our attention back to an embodied presence, feeling, experiencing, sensing the body. Noticing any sensation in the body. Maybe it might feel different than when we started. Might be some pain or some body parts sleeping, maybe some currents of energy flowing through the body. And try to include the whole body in your awareness. The entire body sitting here, the posture. And even extending your awareness a little beyond the body into our energy field. Maybe you might notice a little tingling sensation at the skin. Like radiance or not. It's all good. And then imagining that you can extend your awareness far enough to include everybody in our Sangha here this afternoon, this morning, this evening. And recalling, remembering that we're practicing not only for ourselves and for our own well-being, but the well-being of all beings. That this is a noble act that we're doing, a generous act. Maybe sending some good wishes to those beings who might be suffering in these tough times. From those who are sick to those who are attending to the sick. Our doctors and nurses and what we call in America the first responders to any crisis. And holding that lightly, when you hear the sound of the bell, just noticing whatever arises. Maybe thoughts of, oh, finally the bell, or, ooh, too fast, too soon, or whatever it might be. Thank you very much. It was a very quiet meditation. So what I thought we would do today is, first I was going to do a little bit of a Dharma talk, And I thought I would just go to some real basics and talk about the Noble Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths a little bit, and trying to be mindful of how it can support us in these times. And then I thought what we would do is, unless there's a real objection, and if there is, please raise your hand or whatever. But I thought then we would do a metta meditation. And then after the metta meditation, and maybe even do a sharing of the merit, then we would do the breakout rooms. And another teacher did it this way on Friday. I'm not exactly sure how it went for him, but I thought we would try it where we put the breakout rooms last. And so if there's somebody who just wants to break out completely and not do the breakout rooms, they could do that. Or those who want to stay and share with others in small groups, we can have that opportunity as well. So hopefully that works for everyone. We'll see what happens. Okay, now with the Dharma talk, I don't see any objections, no hands are raised. Good. I'm going to try to use the, we'll go to the top, use the share screen feature. So bear with me 1 second here. I'm going to hit share screen and I'm going to find what I want. Four Noble Truths. I click it like that and I hit share. Oh, there they are. I'm so happy. Okay. So I thought, what the heck, here we are, we're locked up in our rooms, we're confined to our houses. And so, why not study a little bit? And I'm going to try not to make it like a class. I can kind of go into sort of a teacher mode when I'm sort of unconscious. I don't want to do that. But anyway, this is probably the most widely known of the Buddhist teachings, right? And it's one that is shared by all the different schools of Buddhism, whether it's the Theravada one, which is mostly what we talk about, Mahayana, the Tibetan variations, and it's the Four Noble Truths. So I'm just going to go through them real quickly, but obviously you can see them as well. And I also, below, I copied this out of Wikipedia. I found a really nice little explanation of Wikipedia, so I took that out of there. But so the first noble truth is that in life there is suffering, what they call dukkha, which my favorite translation for dukkha is bummer. It is a bummer. At least in my era, when I grew up in the 70s and the 60s, a bummer was anything bad, right? I mean, if a family member died, that's a bummer. If the world has been afflicted by coronavirus, that's a bummer. If I broke my nail, that's a bummer, right? So the whole range can be a bummer. And that's the same with dukkha. So like in the Wikipedia one, it has suffering, incapable of satisfying, painful. Some people also just talk about stress. There's just a wide variation of what we would call dukkha. And I think we can all admit that it is part of life, right? Having to stay in our houses for 5 weeks is dukkha. This is a bummer, right? This is dukkha. So in the Buddhist philosophy, there is a cause, though, for this dukkha. And it isn't like it just arises out of nowhere. And I've written here, it's called tanha, which translates roughly to craving, wanting, desiring, basically things to be different than they are. So like one common expression you'll hear is that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. because suffering is wanting the pain to be different than it is. That's really where we suffer. You also may hear this as the second arrow. This is another Buddhist teachings where the first arrow is the pain. The second arrow is wanting there not to be a first arrow, not wanting there to be pain. But there's good news. The third noble truth is that there can be a cessation or an ending of suffering, an ending of dukkha, an ending of these bummers. And it makes sense that if the cause of suffering is craving, then the end of suffering would be the end of craving when we stop craving. And the Buddha came up with a path where we could achieve this, and it's called the Noble Eightfold Path. So now, this is a quick list, but I have a more detailed list. So to go from one to the other is where I have tripped up before. Just click on the tab. So just to make sure, does everybody now see the Noble Eightfold Path? All right. Oh, that was easy. Thank you, Anna Monica. Okay. So here's our path, right? And, more or less, if you've come on to one of these calls more than once, or if you've come to Saladana or before to our house or whatever, more than once, you're on the path. You might not be right smack in the middle of it. You might not be buried by it, but, we're on the path, right? The Noble Eightfold Path. So there's 8 of them, and I've got a little bit of detail, and I want to make sure and keep track of the time so I don't go too far over, okay? So there's 2 ways to kind of describe the Eightfold Path. One is in its 3 groupings, which is sila, practice, which is called samadhi, and then panya, which is called wisdom. Or we can do it in this order, which is the most common order that you'll see when they're listed out. And so I'm going to do it the way I've got it written here for you guys. So the first one is right view or right understanding, right comprehension, samadhi. And I like this one definition that I saw. The purpose of right view is to clear one's path, right? We want a clear path. We don't want it obstructed by, fallen trees and all sorts of things. Clear one's path from confusion, misunderstanding, and deluded thinking. Now, I wasn't unable to put the actual translation of this on my computer, because apparently I think somebody hacked my Amazon account because they wanted to send me a verifying text to a 91 country code, which I think is India. So I don't know exactly what happened, but I wasn't able to get it. But thankfully I have it on my tablet. So I was just gonna, this is from the Middle Length Discourse by the Buddha. And it's a quote from Sariputta, which was one of the Buddha's primary disciples, the Venerable Sariputta. And he said, let's see, a noble disciple, that's what we are, understands the unwholesome and the root of the unwholesome, the wholesome and the root of the wholesome. In that way, he is one of right view, whose view is straight, who has unwavering confidence in the Dhamma or Dharma, that's the teachings, right? And has arrived at this true Dhamma, which is truth, this true truth. And I'm just going to read a short bit of it. I wish I could have put it up there, but couldn't do it. He says, and what, friends, is the unwholesome? What is the root of the unwholesome? What is the wholesome? What is the root of unwholesome? Okay, killing living beings is unwholesome. So I think this virus is not very wholesome, right? It's killing people. Killing living beings is unwholesome. Taking what is not given is unwholesome. Misconduct in sensual pleasures is unwholesome. False speech is unwholesome. Malicious speech is unwholesome. Harsh speech is unwholesome. Gossip is unwholesome. Covetousness is unwholesome. Ill will is unwholesome. Wrong view is unwholesome. This is called unwholesome. And it kind of covers these first three of the Noble Eightfold Path. So the second one is often, at least mostly I've seen it as right intention or right thought. But I've also seen it as right resolve, right? It's like we resolve to do something. To me, that almost seems even more stronger than intention. Intention often feels to me like it's in the present moment, while resolve could be a longer journey. You know, I resolve to learn how to speak Spanish. Takes more than just an intention, right? Resolve to be on this path. And this one has to do with renunciation. And it's also with what I just read. So we renounce those things that are unwholesome, that are harmful, such as killing, stealing, so forth. The next one is right speech or wise speech. Probably for me, the most difficult of all of them. For some reason, my mouth seems to have a mouth of its own or a mind of its own, and will often say things that I just wish it would not say. But basically, the Buddha understood the power, right, of speech. The Buddha understood that words can heal and words can harm, really. And so he taught that we want to abstain or we want to renounce. We want to not lie. We do not want to say things that will divide us. I mean, this is so crazy. And I mean, you have this in Spain too. It seems like both of our countries, United States and Spain, have politicians who seem to do more dividing than they do uniting, right? I mean, our country's called the United States of America, and right now it feels like the divided states of America. It's just crazy. But the Buddha understood the harm of divisive speech. And so this is something we want to abstain from. We want to abstain from abuse. Now, this is probably my worst one. I think I'm just joking, but oftentimes I'm like abusing. I mean, my words are not that funny. I think they're funny, but other people don't think they're funny. And then here's another one. This one, I probably think of the Spaniards more than the Americans, but we also want to abstain from idle chatter. In other words, gossip. The Buddha suggested that we really shouldn't gossip. This would not be right speech. In fact, some people interpret this as the Buddha said we really shouldn't talk about anybody who's not present. If they're not with you, you shouldn't talk about them. That would be a form of gossip. Okay, moving on. So we now go to wise actions or conduct, and this included what I read earlier from the middle-length discourse about abstaining from killing and stealing and sexual misconduct, which in the middle-length discourse called it sensual misconduct. And then moving on to livelihood. Now, I love this one because, I will confess that I guess I'm sort of a capitalist. I make my money by profiting. Ugh, that even just sounds bad. So I need my income to be greater than my expenses so I can make a profit. And I think this is capitalism, or it's free enterprise or something like that. And I remember thinking, is this is this very Buddhist? Is this consistent with being generous, with being compassionate, with being, not doing harm? And in fact, the Buddha was okay with capitalists. He was okay with the rich. He was okay with business people. In fact, he had many followers who were very successful business people. But he had some boundaries. He had some rules as to what would not constitute wise or right livelihood, how we make our living. Okay, so for instance, if you deal in weapons, this would not be wise livelihood. If you deal in living beings, so like slave trading, or even now, prostitution, stuff like that, no. If you deal, and I've written here just meat, but it was interesting that even back then, if you dealt in the killing and the slaughtering of animals, even if to sell for people to eat, that was not considered wise livelihood. And so you won't find in most Buddhist countries, you will not find slaughterhouses, because that is inconsistent with Buddhist teachings. And as well, alcohol. So I presume if you own a bar or if a liquor store or something like that, that would not be considered wise livelihood, nor if you sold poisons, which would include drugs, right? So if you're a drug dealer, no good. But, it's pretty specific. So for those of us who, work in regular jobs, I think we're fine. We can be on this path and also keep the jobs that we have, as long as you're not killing anybody, as long as you're not, selling any weapons. And, the internet can get kind of tricky. If we're doing things that can harm people via the internet, I think that also, like for me, I don't really like Facebook. I think Facebook, those guys fall into not wise livelihood. But anyway, that's just one of the things I've renounced is Facebook. Okay, how are we doing on time? Yeah, we got enough time. Okay, so now we're moving on. This is the practice section. And so there's 3 of these. And so we have right effort or wise effort. And I'll just go through it real quickly. Or what this means, real quick summary, is that we want to cultivate wholesome states of mind. And when wholesome states of mind are not already arisen, we want to try to arouse them. And when they are already present, we want to maintain them. And when unwholesome states, like ill will, hate, anger, fear, jealousy, any number of these, when we notice that they have arisen, we want to renounce them. We want to abandon them. We want to let them go. And if they haven't arisen, we want to keep it that way. We want to keep them down, right? So this is the specific instructions by the Buddha to work with different states of mind. And here, this is a translation. I'll just read one of them. And so what is right effort? They're often done in question and answer in the way they were memorized and then passed down over these 2,600 years. Here, the monk arouses his will, right? So he generates some energy, puts forth effort, generates energy, exerts his mind, and strives to prevent the arising of evil and unwholesome mental states that have not yet arisen. It's kind of how it's written. So it isn't passive. We are awake and aware and conscious to do this, which leads me to the next one, which is probably our favorite, right? This is mindfulness. Attención plena, sati being the Pali word, and wise or right mindfulness is samasati in the Pali language. Now, this one is somewhat, I don't know if it's controversial, but it is interesting how originally some Buddhist scholars believe that the sati, which basically means to remember, was a practice where they kept in mind the Buddhist teachings. like this Noble Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths. And then they, through the lens of these dhammas, of these teachings, they then live their lives. They were aware through the lens of the dhammas. This is sati. But there's other scholars, and it has somewhat evolved over the years, where we think of it as bare attention. And this is how it's taught in the West now. Okay, so I chose that because that is basically what we're basically following in the Vipassana movement, which is what we often practice. Mindfulness is interpreted as bare attention, never being absent-minded, being conscious of what one is doing. Okay, this is being mindful as we understand it now. I do love the old way, though, and I guess I have it written here, yeah, of retention, being mindful of the dhammas, being mindful of the teachings, being mindful of the elements, the four elements that are beneficial to the Buddhist path. That almost, to me, I see how the monks would be more inclined to do that in our daily lives. Lay people like we are, that would be probably harder, I think, to always keep it in mind. But to be aware of what we're doing and to constantly keep coming back to the present moment, I believe that is possible for us, and we can keep on growing that muscle, developing that muscle. And then the last one is called Sama Samadhi, right or wise concentration. And Buddhaghosa, an ancient teacher, or I don't know how ancient, but teacher, defines samadhi as the centering of consciousness and consciousness concomitance, which I'm not exactly sure what that means. You know what that?
Concomitance.
Concomitance.
Happens at the same time.
Concomitance, things that happen at the same time, evenly and rightly on a single object, the state in virtue of which consciousness and its concomitance remain evenly and rightly on a single object, undistracted, unscattered. Now, in the Vipassana practice, the Vipassana world, we often use this samadhi as a stepping stone to, or a tool to see things clearly. And what I mean by that is to see things as to their impermanence, to see things as to their unsatisfactoriness, and to see things as their lack of self, their emptiness, the fact that they're not personal. And this one also is a little bit kind of controversial, where some people believe that concentration meant the jhanas, meant states of absorption, super, super deep states of concentration that are almost impossible to achieve in our daily lives, at home with a half-hour practice or something. But then there's others who believe we don't need to go that deep to see things as they really are, that they can be seen with just a certain level of calmness. Wow, okay, it feels like that was a lot of words for me. Hopefully they were understood. I'm going to stop the sharing. And if anybody has a question or anything that they would like to add to the room, please raise your hand. I can't see everybody. See, can I do? Or I can see more, especially, at the bottom, if you hit participants, then down at the bottom, there should be a little button that says raise your hand or levantar la mano. I'm not sure what it says in Spanish, but we don't have it because we're the host. I almost think you might even be able to, can you raise your hand if you might even be able to raise your hand if you put your cursor over your picture. Or not. Okay, well, I will accept that nobody, it's funny. I sort of feel like the more I'm, in quarantine like this, it is true. Kind of the less I sort of want to talk. In fact, even this is more words than I've said since I think Thursday when I did this as well. So yeah, I totally get it. So maybe why don't we just do a metta meditation? And then for those who want, we'll do the small groups afterwards. But everybody okay with a metta meditation? All right. I like the thumbs up. Okay, same idea. Let's start with a comfortable posture. I often like to put my hands right on my heart center to really feel that area. It is said that we have more nerve endings in and around the heart than there are around the brain. So for those of you who might be new to metta practice, metta meaning something like goodwill or loving kindness, buena voluntad, benevolencia. And so in this practice, we offer phrases or wishes to ourselves and others for their well-being. I want to cultivate this sense of well-being in ourselves and others. So I'm going to mention some phrases and you can say them mentally to yourself, using whatever words work for you if you don't like my words. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I live with ease. And adding one that is often more of a compassion phrase, karuna. May I be free from suffering. Now for some, starting with I is a little difficult. Some people like to start with a benefactor, somebody they really admire, or maybe their pet or a grandmother. So why don't we try a benefactor next? So imagine somebody or some being you really love. You just admire and love them without conditions. And let's offer metta to this being. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. May you be free from suffering. And now, let's try somebody difficult, what we call the difficult person. So this might include somebody who maybe hurt your feelings, said something that you wish they had not said, Or maybe it's somebody who just is having a tough time accepting things as they are, and they're just angry and they're pushing people away. Or maybe it could be, a politician or somebody you just really causing a lot of anger inside you. Somebody that's in your head causing some unhappiness. So let's try to offer metta, goodwill to that person. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. May you be free from suffering. And lastly, we will do all beings. So imagine we can just spread, send, extend this goodwill, these feelings towards all beings in all directions. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. May all beings be free from suffering. And to finish up this part of our Sangha with a dedication of the merit, the fruits of our practice, our Sangha, the teachings, our Buddha nature, that true nature underneath all these crazy thoughts we might have. Dedicating these things to the benefit of all beings. May all beings be happy, peaceful, healthy and strong, safe, protected. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, free from this virus, free from war, violence, discrimination, hate. May all beings find their path that is not littered with too much confusion, where the possibility of freedom, freedom from suffering, freedom from hate, freedom from greed is visible, where we can see where we're going. And especially I want to shout out to all those people on the front lines around the world. May they have the strength and the courage to continue to do what they do. May they be free from any risk. And may they be happy. May we all be happy. May we all be free. Thank you all very much.
Oh, you're coming back to Spain.
So maybe we'll start off, let's see, maybe opening up the room for a couple minutes. We could say hi, and then I will open up the breakout rooms, and we'll just see who decides to stay and share and who decides that they don't want to do that right now. All is good. But first we'll do a group virtual hug here. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Somebody asked, when are you going to Spain, Anna? Yeah. Oof. You know, I'll answer that question. So my kind of capitalist world is here in California, and it has kind of come apart. When times are good, I don't have to work. When times are bad, I guess I have to work. So a lot of it depends on me being able to put the pieces back together if possible, or accepting their new condition, which I'm not quite there yet. So a lot of it depends on the shutdown, right? And on the economy. But I could see not for a couple months, maybe. Yeah. And I'm not liking it at all. I mean, oof. Anyways, so that's maybe it'll probably be the summer. It'll be the first time we'll be able to get back. But we are right now. Our visas, our residence NIAs are in process, and we're still pushing those along. So we're paying our rent at our apartment. So we do intend to come back. Okay. Well, anybody you say hi or to each other, or just go into breakout rooms? What do you think? Breakout rooms? I love it. All right.
Rooms, yeah.
Okay.
Go
Here we
ahead.
go. And if you don't want to do it, no problem. This is totally optional. And it'll be about 7 minutes in the breakout room. Love you all. If I don't see you afterwards,
Thank you.
you might be gone.
Bye.
Bye. Take care, Laura.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, there's Darren. Darren, how are you?
Good, good. How you guys doing?
Okay. Subacho is near you in Ireland, and he
Really?
also had the symptoms. Yeah,
Oh no. Oh no.
I know, but he seems to be better.
Ah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. I'm glad.
Okay, here you guys go. Breaking out. Brink. Let's see, we have. Maybe if I do that. What do you think? There we go. Boom. If you were to sign in real quick right now, we are. If you
I cannot hear you. I cannot hear
Okay,
you.
how about now?
No, I got an error from Zoom. I was supposed to be in breakout room number 1, but I got an error from the program saying that it couldn't respond. So
Oh
I get
no.
out
So
and got in
you're
again.
not in a breakout room?
And no one in the breakout room. No, I couldn't. I couldn't get into it because I click on get in, but the Zoom didn't respond.
Huh.
So I
Sorry
was
about
supposed
that.
to be is it possible to join group number 1?
I'll drop you into group number 4. Let's see what happens. Because they only
Okay.
have 2 people.
Right? Okay. I'm joining now. Back again, Jane. I'm wondering what is the best way to make any contribution. I mean,
Oh no. So you were unable to join, huh? Luis, were you unable to join?
no. Yes. I was able to join
Oh, but very short, huh?
breakout. Yeah, in breakout room number 4.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
No, it was the system, I think.
yeah.
I was wondering. I don't know. I'm not sure that I should put this question to bring this question to here, but I was wondering how could we
Ya,
how about
ya hemos vuelto.
contribute financially with donation